Okay, I think we're live now. I'm just waiting on a second on the sound check. There's about, I don't know, maybe about a 40-second delay before we go live. Am I hearing anything? Let's see. Okay, I think we're live now. I'm just waiting on a second on the sound. Okay. I think we're getting a little reverb. I'm going to move my microphone back a little more. Sometimes that clicking sound comes in. But anyway, it's a beautiful, chilly day out. It's probably going to be in the 60s today. Tomorrow's going to be warm, but then the rest of the week is going to get chilly. It's time for pumpkin spice coffee and thinking about the holidays, Thanksgiving, getting ready to decorate the house. Okay. But in the meantime, let's get ready for Well, we're back, and as you saw in the video today, we're going to talk about excuse me, real estate and the housing industry under a Joe Biden presidency. He's already laid out some plans, and we're going to go over that today. But first, want to say good morning to my producer, Leonard Patapkin, and he's in our newly renovated Mr. G Studios. Is that correct, Leonard?
Chris, great news. In the audience we have a guest.
That's the wrong one. Excuse me. Sorry. Leonard, do we have a new studio now?
Chris, great news.
No, it's this one here. Oh,
Chris, great news.
okay. We're having some technical difficulty. Just give me a second here. We have the wrong video from Leonard, but hold on. Okay. So again, we're going to talk about the Joe Biden presidency, Joe Biden president-elect, and as I said, he's already laid out the plans for the real estate industry and the housing market. So we're going to go over that today, and let's actually first put up as this other video is loading. Let's go over what we're going to discuss today. going to discuss today. So let me see if Leonard is back in the studio here. I understand we have a newly renovated studio.
Yes, Chris. I am in the newly renovated Mr. G studio, and yes, I am beginning to get ready for the holidays, decorating the house and buying a tree for the Christmas holidays. Back in the former Soviet Union, we did not exchange much gifts with each other. The only thing we asked for Christmas was just a little bit of heat, not much.
As you may not know, Leonard is from the former Soviet Union, and he's very happy to be here. So let's go over what we're going to discuss today. I already showed you our chalkboard, and let's bring up our PDF file. Okay. So this article was actually, this one was in, it's basically a website for real estate professionals. And this was, this article appeared in that, it's actually an online magazine. It appeared last week. So let's go down and talk about certain things that he's going to set up. And what he wants to do first, which I like, is he wants to set up affordable housing. I'm originally from Brooklyn, New York. Prior to moving down here, all the new construction, all the new developments, whether it was apartments in Brooklyn, it's mostly co-ops. Down here, they're mostly condos. But if they were apartments going up that were going to be sold via a co-op program, everything was luxury apartments. And of course, these are these are very expensive. There weren't any ones that were more geared for middle income people. Let's put it that way. All right. And as we have building going up in different parts of the country, it would be nice if it's more geared to with the middle type incomes. So he's pinpointed excuse me. The Biden campaign's housing proposal pinpointed the dearth of housing supply as the driving force behind the affordability crisis. In response, Biden has pledged to invest $640 billion in housing over the next 10 years. Among other things, the plan would provide a financial assistance to help hardworking Americans buy, rent, or rent safe quality housing. All right. The plan also calls for increasing supply via investments in resilience, energy efficiency, and accessibility of homes. And he's going to establish a $100 billion affordable housing fund, which will include $20 billion investment in the federal government's housing trust fund, among other investments. So he's gearing to build more affordable housing for everybody. Now, some people are aware of the plan where he's going to give a tax benefit. Oh, yeah, actually, we're going to talk about that coming up next. A tax benefit for home buyers. All right, but let's go back in now to housing discrimination, which is, of course, very, very important. Biden's housing proposal tackles redlining and other discriminatory practices in the housing industry head on, devaluing a substantial portion of would apply to regulations to lending and foreclosure process. The Bill of Rights will also prevent landlords from discriminating against tenants who receive federal housing assistance. This is very important. Redlining, actually, when we become real estate agents, we have to learn about all these different ways that the real estate industry in the past has moved along or affected the different areas of their territory from keeping certain racial groups out in certain areas, okay? Or also making it more difficult for some racial groups to get mortgages. So this has to be stopped. It doesn't happen as much as it did prior to years ago, but it still does happen. And he wants to make sure that none of these discriminatory practices will take place. So this is all good here. And Biden also plans to roll back Trump administration policies gutting fair lending and fair housing protections for homeowners. I remember when he came in, he loosened up a lot of the restrictions that were on it. Now, don't forget, when Obama became president, it was towards the well, maybe some people would say towards the beginning of the real estate bust, and you know, then it continued a little bit. So when Obama came in, he wanted to make sure that that people who were receiving the mortgages were actually eligible for them. So in other words, I'll give you a fine example. We were using back then a lot of adjustable rate mortgages, which the acronym is ARM mortgages. And for instance, let's say if the ongoing rate for a fixed mortgage at that time was 8%, just to make it easier. The adjustable rate mortgage may start at 2%, and then every couple of years, however it's stated in that lending agreement, it's able to go up a certain amount of points. And there's a cutoff there. It can't go higher, let's say 10% or whatever. It can't go up to like 12% if it's not stated in that. If it's saying that, you know, the gap is going to be between 2 and 10, that's what it has to stay. But basically, it's a way of getting people into a property that perhaps their income will go up as the years go by, and then they could afford the higher mortgage rate. Now, the problem with the adjustable rate mortgage going back to 2007, basically the lending industry qualified you at that lower rate. All right. So let's say you bought a house for $100,000 at a 2% mortgage. That was no problem for you paying the mortgage. All right. But let's say it had the ability to go up to 10%. And it's usually not that big of a gap. But let's just say 10%. The lenders basically, again, they qualified you at that 2%, but they didn't see if at 10% with your current employment wage could afford that mortgage. So what happened with a lot of people going back to 2007 and prior is that they applied for the mortgage. They were approved at that 2%, but once it began to creep up, they could no longer afford the mortgage. So what Obama did when he came in and says, we're not going to, you could still get an adjustable rate mortgage, but if it's able to go up to 10%, you have to be able to pay that 10% now. You could get it, and in the first couple of years, you could pay 2% to 4%, but we want to make sure when it reaches 10% that you could afford that mortgage. So these are things that changed under the Obama administration, and a lot of things were brought to light about the lending industry and for the consumers, so they knew exactly what they were getting into. And that's a whole other webinar or a live stream broadcast on what changes happened then. But that's a big one. So he wants to go back to that. Biden wants to go back to that, where you you know, you really are aware of everything that's involved with getting the mortgage. And I'm not so sure if he's going to tighten credit restrictions on it, but he wants to make sure that you can afford that mortgage, so we don't have another burst of the real estate industry and having all these foreclosures on the market. So with rentals and evictions, he wants to get that in control right now, especially with the ongoing problem we have with COVID-19. And going down to this paragraph, in the early version of this plan to beat COVID-19, Biden has also stated that no one should face foreclosure or eviction because they are affected by COVID-19 crisis, calling for mortgage and rental relief for people impacted by the outbreak. And we're going to talk more about this when I'm finished this section, because what we definitely need to avoid future problems with the economy and the housing market is to get out the next stimulus package. But we'll go into a little further detail with that. And housing related, there was some ideas that that the mortgage interest deduction might be cut out. It's still there, but it seems like every 4 years there's that discussion about whether or not to be able to deduct your mortgage interest and your real estate taxes that you pay when you do the filing of your taxes. He wants to make sure that stays into effect. You have to remember, going back under the Reagan administration, we were able to deduct the interest that was on our credit card accounts. So if you had a big credit card debt, you had an advantage because you were paying a lot of interest on it. Well, Reagan took that away, and actually, it was a good idea because you don't want people running up a lot of credit debt just because they could deduct it on their taxes. So that happened under Ronald Reagan. It has never gone back, that you're able to deduct credit card interest. And this is personal credit card interest. All right. Let's put it that way. I don't want to go deeper into this area because then I'm not a tax consultant. So I don't want to touch that. But I'm just telling you that we were at one time able to deduct it. We can't. There's always talk that goes around about stopping the tax, the interest payments, or the interest on your mortgage. You were able to deduct that, and there was always talk that they would take that away. So he wants to make sure that stays. And going down to the second paragraph, additionally, Biden plans to give first-time homebuyers a refundable, advanceable tax credit of $15,000. This would assist people in buying homes at a point in their lives when they often don't make enough money to qualify for other kinds of tax benefits, and would allow first to receive the tax credit when they make their purchase instead of having to wait to receive it in the following year. All right. And that's good because we know, I would say that's the second obstacle in buying a house. The first one is getting your credit in good shape so that you'll be eligible for a mortgage. All right. The second part is always, well, now I need a down payment. And in earlier broadcasts, we've talked about FHA and Fannie Mae, where you have to put down either 3% or 3.5%. But sometimes people don't have that. So a down payment assistance program like that would be very, very helpful. That would get more people buying a house. The first step they did is they got their credit in order, but now they need the money for the down payment, and this would be very helpful. This other one here, homelessness, and this is very, very good. Another entire section of Biden's housing proposal is dedicated to homelessness, stressing a national strategy for making housing a right for all. The proposal calls for emergency funding for things like shelters and vouchers, policy reform to prioritize a housing first strategy to solving the issue, and special policies for certain groups such as veterans, LGBTQ individuals, and the disabled. So that's good news, because we do have a homelessness problem in this country, and it's good that an administration wants to deal with that. And the last thing, and this one gets a little difficult to understand. We have the 1031 exchanges. So before I read what he's doing with this, I'm going to go down. I got the definition here. A 1031 exchange gets its name from Section 1031 of the U.S. Internal Revenue Code, which allows you to avoid paying capital gains taxes when you sell an investment property and reinvest the proceeds from the sale within certain time limits in a property or properties of like kind and equal or greater value. All right. So you're exchanging properties that are similar, and because you're doing that, you're avoiding paying a capital gains taxes. And the reason why this comes about is to stimulate investments, especially if you want to see a certain part of a town or city develop even more. Okay, so this might be, let's say, a little bit more controversial because there's good sides of it and there's bad sides to it. So why is he putting a halt on that? Why is Biden putting a halt on this 1031 exchanges? So taking it from here, in order to fund a child and elderly care spending platform, Biden has proposed abolishing 1031 like-kind exchanges for investors with annual incomes above $400,000, a much favored benefit in the industry. The additional federal funds would allow Biden's administration to accrue $775 billion in government spending over the next 10 years to help provide care for these two groups. All right. So the next paragraph talks about what I just did about deferring the capital gains taxes. All right. Here's the controversy. A lot of times this exchange, 1031 exchange, was kept because a lot of lawmakers recognize their positive impact on the economy, industry experts say. Exchanges allow cash-strapped minority, women, and veteran-owned businesses to grow their businesses by temporarily deferring tax on reinvested proceeds. Jeffrey DeBoa, head of the Real Estate Roundtable, had said, okay, and something got cut off here, but something was less certain. So it has its good side and the bad side. Okay, it may hurt investors to make these exchanges to perhaps build up a certain area of a city that's economically downtrodden. So that's where it might hurt. Where the money's going that the administration will be collecting is to help child and elderly services. All right. Okay. To fund child and elderly care spending platforms. So it's going to a good thing. It's going outside the realm of economic expansion, again, to perhaps improve an area of a city. So you have to, it's a situation where you have to weigh the good and the bad and what's the better outcome. All right. So again, it's going to affect individuals who have incomes above 400,000, but the ones who probably have the ability to buy and sell properties in let's say in large volumes probably will be making over 400,000. So I'm not sure about the statistics on that. So to summarize that, you have to take the good with the bad. And maybe I should not say with the good or bad. You got to weigh both sides and saying, okay, it's going to cut back here, but it's going to help others in this area. So we'll see. We'll see on that. But everything else, I think it's good for our country. I know there's a lot of people who may be for it or against it. Okay. I like seeing, when it comes to affordable housing, I like to see more homes built that are geared for the middle income, from lower to middle income. There's a lot of people out there who says we really don't have a middle income segment of our country. It's either you're poor or you're rich. And if that's true, maybe this would help. Maybe people who do not have home ownership at this time will eventually get home ownership. And I think that's a great thing. So I would like this. I like the affordable housing. I like the tax credit of $15,000 for first-time home buyers. Okay. I like protecting people who may get evicted or foreclosed on because of COVID-19. Right. The 1031 exchange, you know, I don't want to make a for or against it right now because I don't know how it's going to turn out. Okay, it's one of these things that sounds good, and I hope it's a good idea to help certain services when it comes to economic rebuilding of a city. It may work well, it may not work well, but let's see how it turns out. Now, the biggest thing about all of this, and for economic expansion to continue, and for the real estate market to continue strong. And by the way, right now it's still very strong, and we need listings. We need listings so bad. All right. If you're thinking about selling your home, please call me. Okay. If we and I will work my best to price it correctly. But in most situations, it'll have a contract on it within 24 to 48 hours. And a lot of buyers are getting discouraged because they want to buy. And every time they go out to see a house and they want to write, they find out there's a couple offers on it already, or there's an accepted the offer on it and they've ratified a contract. So this is what's happening right now. So in the sense the real estate market is good, it would be even better or even greater if we had more listings. But there's two things that we have to work on. And I brought this up in my other live stream episodes, is that we got to do two things. And number one, we have to get in control of the coronavirus. That's the biggest thing. And we're seeing an upsurge right now. In Virginia, the governor is beginning to put some restrictions down. It's not a lockdown, but it's lowering the amount of people for social gatherings. I'm curious what's going to happen to my church because we began going back. But if they want to keep it under 25 people, we may have to go back to just a virtual service. Okay. And I know it's going to hurt many different ways, because we're coming into the holiday season. People want to get together and celebrate and eat and drink and have a good time. And yes, we all want to do that. But we have to weigh out what's the consequence of doing that. Virginia, right now, the numbers are still good. The governor wants to make sure it doesn't get worse. So he's putting some restrictions on now. I have a feeling if he doesn't do that, in a month or so, we'll go down to a lockdown. This is my personal opinion. Okay. So we have to take some sort of precautions, but we also have to have a plan on how to truly combat this coronavirus and how to deal with it. Now, hey, I'm really happy under the Trump administration that this vaccine is coming out. We should start having it go to the public, maybe the end of November, the beginning of December. First, it's going to go to first responders, which they have to. They have to give it to people who work in hospitals. They have to give it to the elderly, like my pop, who's in a nursing home. And then it'll slowly go out more to the general public. But that's going to take time. It's not going to be overnight. It's not going to be within a month. I would say by late spring, early summer, the general public probably would have been able to be vaccinated by that point. But it's going to take time. But if we do nothing, if there's no other type of restrictions to prevent it from spreading, more businesses will close down. Okay, it's happening again already, and businesses from not just retail stores, but manufacturing plants, right? From companies that produce the materials to build homes, to repair homes. So this could snowball into something big if it's not stopped. So we have to get in control of this coronavirus. That's the number one thing. And number two, and this is what's going to affect directly the real estate industry. Let's go down here. Okay, it's this right here. The struggling rental market could usher in the next American housing crisis. And this is from the Wall Street Journal. And basically, without the new stimulus package, people who are renting right now and people who actually have mortgages, they're having difficulty paying those rents. They have difficulty paying their mortgages. But those who are renting, don't forget, they're paying money to a owner, the seller or the landlord owner, and they most likely have a mortgage on that investment property themselves. So they need that rental income to pay that mortgage out there. And they're not able to make those payments if their renters can't pay their monthly rent. So if this continues, we're going to see foreclosures within the investment community. And that will snowball into bigger problems. So this stimulus package to help the situation needs to happen to avoid bigger problems within the real estate market. So we're right now at this pivotal point where I'm going to close this section here. At this pivotal point where a lot of things could happen. And again, presently the real estate market is good. The stock market is good. But if these two things do not happen, we don't get in control of COVID-19, we don't have a second stimulus package, then we could see problems with our economy in 2021. Okay? That's what I feel. It does not have to happen. It's a feeling that I have and many other people in the field. And I'm also talking about economists. They also feel that as well. So we have to tackle these two industries. So just to put a little review or a little caption under that, okay? And putting up here my two big things that have to be done: defeating COVID, and that we need the new stimulus package. So I'm hoping we get a stimulus package soon. Defeating COVID is going to take a bit of time. The vaccine will help, but again, that's going to take 4 to 6 months to reach out to the entire public, and that's assuming if it's a good vaccine, all right, and that's assuming that it's going to be good, or the vaccine would protect you from COVID-19 for at least 2 years and maybe more, hopefully forever. But we don't know that yet. So those are two things that we have to work on. Again, these are shadows that may not happen, as I quote a Christmas Carol, but something we have to be aware of. All right. And we reviewed what's in store for a Joe Biden presidency for the real estate and housing industry. So that's it for today. We're going about to 30 minutes right now. Again, I don't want to go over that amount, but I hear Leonard calling out to me. I think we might have another special person in the audience. Is that true, Leonard?
Chris, great news. In the audience we have a guest who performs the historic art form of plate spinning. Plate spinning is a circus manipulation art where a person spins plates, bowls and other flat objects on poles, without them falling off. Plate spinning relies on the gyroscopic effect, in the same way a top stays upright while spinning. Spinning plates are sometimes gimmicked to help keep the plates on the poles. Ladies and gentlemen, I show you plate spinning.
Wow, that was impressive. Boy, last week we had the flying zucchinis, and they set up the trapeze in the audience. That's great. And now the woman with the spinning plates, that was great. So that's all for today's show. I'll see you next Saturday. Be safe. Wear your mask. Do your best to keep 6 feet away from each other. Wash your hands, and enjoy the day. It looks beautiful out there. And we'll talk again next week. Bye now. Okay,